The rain hammered against the mansion's windows as 15-year-old Cale Meridian pressed his face to the glass, watching luxury cars pull into the circular driveway. His heart thundered as he recognized the sleek black sedan. The Ashfords had arrived. "Kyle, come downstairs." His mother Seraphine's voice carried a cold finality that made his stomach clench. She stood in the foyer wearing her most expensive dress, diamonds glittering at her throat like frozen tears. His father, Aldrich, adjusted his gold cufflinks without meeting Cale's eyes. "The contract is signed. The Ashfords have agreed to take you in exchange for clearing our debts." Cale's world tilted. "You're selling me?" "Don't be dramatic," Seraphine snapped. "It's an arrangement. They need an heir. We need financial stability. You'll receive the finest education money can buy." The doorbell chimed, and Kyle watched his parents transform into gracious hosts as they welcomed Thaddeus and Cordelia Ashford. The elderly couple examined him like livestock, their calculating gazes making his skin crawl. "He's thin," Cordelia observed clinically, "but he has good bone structure. He'll do." As papers were signed and money exchanged, Cale felt something fundamental break inside him. His parents had chosen their comfort over their son. The betrayal carved itself into his heart like a brand, and in that moment, he made a silent vow. He would never be powerless again. The Ashford estate loomed like a fortress against the Seattle skyline. Cale's new room was 3 times larger than his old one, but the gold bars on the windows reminded him this was still a prison. "Your education begins immediately," Thaddeus announced over dinner, his voice echoing in the cavernous dining room. "Alicia will be your tutor." Cale looked up as a young woman entered, perhaps 25, with auburn hair and eyes that held secrets. Alicia Ravencrest moved with quiet confidence, her smile warm but guarded. "I've reviewed your academic records," she said, settling beside him. "You're remarkably bright. We'll start with advanced mathematics and economics." Days blurred into weeks. Kyle excelled under Alicia's guidance, but she taught him more than academics. During stolen moments, she shared stories of her own difficult past, how knowledge had been her escape route. "Power isn't inherited," she whispered one evening as they worked late in the library. "It's earned, and you, Cale, have the mind to earn it all back." But the Ashfords watched everything. When Cordelia caught them talking quietly, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Remember your place, Miss Ravencrest," she said icily. "You're here to educate, not befriend." That night, Cale lay awake planning. The Ashfords thought they owned him, but they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd given him the tools to eventually destroy them. 2 years into his captivity, Cale discovered the Ashfords' true intentions during a late-night conversation he wasn't meant to overhear. "The boy is progressing well," Thaddeus told his business partner, Lysander Blackthorne. "Once he turns 18, we'll have him sign the inheritance papers. He'll never know the fortune was always meant to be temporary." Cale's blood ran cold. They planned to use him as a legal heir, then strip away everything once he'd served his purpose. The next morning, he approached Alicia with desperate intensity. "I need to learn everything about corporate law, investment strategies, and hostile takeovers. Now." She studied his face, recognizing the shift. "What happened?" "I found out their real plan." His voice was steel wrapped in silk. "They want to use me and throw me away, but I'm going to turn their own game against them." Alicia's smile was sharp as a blade. "Then let's make you dangerous." She began teaching him in secret, real-world finance, psychological manipulation, the art of reading people's weaknesses. Cale absorbed it all like a sponge, his natural brilliance amplified by burning motivation. But their clandestine lessons didn't go unnoticed. Cordelia's suspicions grew, and she began watching them with predatory focus. "The boy is getting too close to the tutor," she told Thaddeus one evening. "We may need to remove her." Cale had no idea how high the stakes were about to become. Alicia's scream shattered the morning silence. Cale rushed to her room to find it ransacked, a pool of blood on the Persian carpet. His hands shook as he touched the crimson stain, still warm. "Miss Ravencrest had a family emergency," Cordelia announced coldly when he confronted her. "She's gone back to Europe, indefinitely." But Cale knew better. The satisfied gleam in Cordelia's eyes told him everything. They'd eliminated his ally, his mentor, his only friend in this gilded hell. That night, he broke into Thaddeus's study and found the evidence: security footage of two men dragging an unconscious Alicia from the house. His foster parents weren't just manipulative, they were killers. Fear and rage warred in his chest as he realized his own life hung by a thread. He had to disappear before they decided he knew too much. Using skills Alicia had taught him, Cale accessed the Ashfords' accounts and transferred enough money to survive. He left a note that would buy him time: "Gone to visit my real parents. Back in a week." As he slipped into the Seattle night, 17 years old and utterly alone, Cale felt the last of his childhood die. The boy who'd once believed in love and family was gone. In his place stood someone harder, colder, infinitely more dangerous. 5 years later, Cale stood in his corner office overlooking Manhattan, watching the city pulse with ambition below. At 22, he'd built Meridian Ventures from nothing into a force that made billionaires nervous. His assistant, the sharp-eyed Zara Nightfall, entered with his morning briefing. "The Ashfords are hemorrhaging money," she reported with satisfaction. "Their pharmaceutical division is failing, and their real estate empire is crumbling." Cale's smile was ice-cold. "Perfect. And my parents?" "Meridian Industries is on the verge of bankruptcy. They're desperate for investors." Zara's eyes glittered with shared vindication. "They have no idea who you've become." Through careful manipulation and strategic investments, Cale had orchestrated both families' downfall. Every move calculated, every pressure point exploited. The Ashfords had taught him well, perhaps too well. "There's something else," Zara continued. "A private investigator found a lead on Alicia Ravencrest. She's alive, but..." She hesitated. "She's been held captive all these years. The Ashfords have been using her as leverage against her sister." Cale's composure cracked for just a moment. Alicia was alive. The woman who'd shaped him into a weapon was still breathing, still suffering because of him. "Find her," he commanded, his voice deadly quiet, "and prepare for war." Cale's Rolls-Royce pulled up to his childhood home as autumn leaves swirled like memories. The mansion looked smaller somehow, shabbier. Paint peeled from shutters, and the garden was overgrown with neglect. Seraphine answered the door, her face a mask of practiced elegance, barely concealing desperation. She still wore expensive clothes, but Cale noticed the subtle signs of decline: the frayed hem, the tarnished jewelry. "Cale!" She forced brightness into her voice. "What a wonderful surprise. Aldrich, look who's here." His father emerged from the study, older and grayer but still carrying himself with false confidence. Neither recognized the boy they'd abandoned in the man before them. "We have a proposition," Aldrich began eagerly. "An incredible investment opportunity. We just need a partner with substantial capital." Kyle let them pitch their failing business, watching them grovel without knowing who they were groveling to. The irony was delicious, his parents begging their abandoned son for salvation. "I represent a private equity firm," Cale said smoothly. "We might be interested, but we'd need complete control." Of course," Seraphine agreed quickly. "We're flexible on terms." As they discussed details, Cale noticed a photograph on the side table, a picture of the three of them from years ago. His parents looked happy, wealthy, secure. That boy in the photo looked innocent, trusting. How wrong he'd been. The boardroom at Meridian Industries fell silent as Kyle entered, flanked by his legal team. Seraphine and Aldrich sat at the polished table, contracts spread before them like surrender documents. "Before we proceed," Kyle said quietly, "I think you should know who you're dealing with." He slowly removed his sunglasses, meeting their eyes directly for the first time. Recognition dawned like a slow-motion explosion. "Impossible," Seraphine whispered, her face draining of color. "Hello, mother, father." His voice was silk over steel. "Surprised to see me?" Aldrich's hands shook as he reached for his water glass. "Kale, we thought... The Ashfords said you'd run away. We looked for you." "Liar." The word cut through the air like a blade. "You sold me like cattle and never looked back. Now you're bankrupt, desperate, and you've just signed your company over to the son you abandoned." The contracts were already signed. Kale's lawyers had structured the deal perfectly. His parents had just given him everything they'd once valued more than their own child. "You can't do this," Seraphine stood, her composure cracking. "We're your parents." "No," Kyle replied with devastating calm. "Parents don't auction their children to pay debts. You made your choice 15 years ago. Now live with the consequences." As security escorted them out, Kale felt empty. The revenge was complete, but it tasted like ash. The warehouse district reeked of desperation and broken dreams. Kale's team surrounded the building where Elysia was held, their movements precise and deadly quiet. "She's on the 3rd floor," Zara reported through his earpiece. "2 guards, but they're not expecting trouble." Kale's heart hammered as he climbed the stairs. 5 years of wondering, of guilt, of hoping she was still alive. Now he was seconds away from finding out. The door splintered under his shoulder. Inside, Elysia sat chained to a chair, her auburn hair dulled with grime, her eyes, God, her eyes still blazed with intelligence and defiance. "Kyle?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm here." He broke the chains with bolt cutters, his hands gentle despite their urgency. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry it took this long." She collapsed against him, and he felt her tears on his shoulder. "I knew you'd come. I knew you'd become everything I taught you to be." "The Ashfords, already in custody," Zara confirmed. "Federal agents picked them up an hour ago. They're looking at life sentences." As they helped Elysia to the car, she gripped Kale's hand. "There's something you need to know. About your parents. About why they really sold you." The revelation in her eyes promised to shatter everything he thought he knew. In the safety of his penthouse, Elysia revealed the truth that changed everything. "Your parents didn't sell you for money," she said, her voice heavy with years of secrets. "They sold you to save your life." Kale's world tilted. "What?" "Lysander Blackthorne, the Ashford's partner. He's your real father. He discovered your existence and threatened to kill you and your mother if Aldrich didn't pay him $50 million. Elysia's eyes were filled with pain. "They couldn't raise that kind of money, so they made a different deal." The revelation hit like a physical blow. They were protecting me? "The Ashfords promised to keep you safe from Lysander, to give you a good life." Seraphine and Aldrich thought they were saving you. Elysia gripped his hands. "They've been paying Lysander ever since, trying to buy your freedom. That's why they went bankrupt." Kale staggered to the window, his entire worldview crumbling. His parents hadn't abandoned him. They'd sacrificed everything to protect him from a monster. "Lysander is still out there," Elysia continued. "He's been waiting for you to surface. Now that you're successful, visible, he'll come for me," Kale finished, understanding flooding through him. "And everyone you care about," she confirmed. "Your parents, me, Zara, We're all targets now. The game had changed. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. The showdown came on a rain-soaked rooftop in Seattle, where it all began. Lysander Blackthorne stood like a shadow against the city lights, his silver hair whipping in the wind. "My son," he said with mock affection, "you've grown into everything I hoped you'd be." Cale faced the man who'd shaped his life through absence and threat. "I'm nothing like you." "Oh, but you are." Lysander's smile was pure malice. "The ruthlessness, the brilliance, the way you destroyed your enemies. You have my blood." Behind them, Seraphine and Aldrich stood with Alicia and Zara, the people Cale had learned to love after years of bitter solitude. "Choose," Lysander commanded, pulling out a gun. "Join me. Be the heir I always wanted, or watch them all die." Kyle's mind raced through possibilities, strategies, escape routes. Then he looked at his parents, really looked at them. He saw the love they'd hidden behind desperate choices, the sacrifice they'd made to protect him. "I choose family," he said simply. The FBI agents Cale had secretly contacted moved from the shadows. Lysander's empire of corruption crumbled as evidence of his crimes was revealed. The monster who'd terrorized his family was finally caged. As dawn broke over Seattle, Kyle embraced his parents for the first time in 7 years. "I'm sorry," Seraphine whispered. "We're so sorry." "I know," he replied, feeling the last of his hatred dissolve. "I understand now." With Lysander defeated and his family reunited, Cale Meridian, the boy who'd been sold, abandoned, and betrayed, had finally found his way home, not to a place, but to the people who'd loved him enough to let him go. The phoenix had risen from ashes, but more importantly, the man had learned to forgive. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this story.